move into the same neighborhood, or they want to move into the neighborhood with them. So if they see an open house, they start prowling for them, or they invite them to come to the open house with them. So most of the residents in the surrounding neighborhood have a friend, family member, or acquaintance that might be looking to move right now and might want to move in that same neighborhood. So showing our seller that we're marketing to the other neighbors is can be very effective as part of both your marketing strategy and your open house techniques. So
Does everybody understand that? The open house, by the way, very rarely are you going to sell the open house that day at the open house. The idea is it shows the seller that you're doing stuff, and it also shows the neighborhood, because there are people that in the neighborhood think they might be selling the house. They're the ones that come in there. They're looking at your open house. They're comparing how their house measures up to the house that you're showing. They're also interviewing you. You don't think that. But when neighbors come in and look at the house, some agents look at them and they go, oh, a bunch of nosy neighbors came over to look. They might be getting ready to sell their house, and they go, let's see how well you marketed the house for them, right? So that's your chance to shine, and you're on that day. You may be a waiter, but when you're not in the restaurant, you're not a waiter. As soon as you're in the restaurant, you're on, right? So when you're there, that's not the time to relax and have a good time and chill out and watch television and eat popcorn with your other agents. That's the time that you're there to work. You got to treat it seriously, because somebody could see you and they're going to notice how you
Look,
conduct
frankly,
business.
this is also a great way to grow your SOI. It helps you meet more people. You're meeting neighbors that own homes, and you're also meeting prospective buyers looking for homes. So it helps you actually to meet these people, cultivate these leads, and then we use our lead follow-up process for the buyer lead conversion process or the seller lead conversion process, or possibly even both, depending on who we bump into. Cultivating these leads, building rapport with them, and adding them eventually as members to your SOI referral database is the goal with those. Moving on to 4, it's the traditional method that most agents look for, is meeting and obtaining buyers as clients that are currently in the market looking, right? If they're looking for open houses, we can actually quickly convert them and find them a more effective way to view homes and help them out and add value that way as well. And then finally, the most important reason we have an open house is often overlooked. It's to get listings. We want to meet the neighbors and get listings. And one of the ways we do that is show how hard and how far above and beyond we go to market their neighbor's home for sale. So we actually evidence our work and build a relationship with them throughout the process, right? And there's several reasons why we focus on listings, right? Number 1 is time, okay? Generally speaking, an agent that sells, let's say, 30 homes a year, if 20 of those are listings and only 10 of them are buyers, they're going to have a very, very balanced life and have lots of free time. However, conversely, if an agent has 20 buyers and 10 listings in a year, that agent's going to work like mad. That is a very busy agent, especially in the busy season of the year, where they'll be very frustrated and unable to keep up with their personal life balance, because buyers take 4 times as much time as a listing does. So the average agent can handle 1 listing in the same amount of time it takes to handle 4 active buyers. Okay? So an agent that has 20 listings in a year is going to have a lot of free time, and they're going to be just as busy as an agent that represents 5 active buyers all the time. Okay? So that's why you'll see most top producing agents are listing agents, and they're listing heavy. When you see lots of real estate teams, that's the reason buyers agents are brought on to represent the buyers, because they just take more time, and it allows the team leader to focus just on getting and servicing listings. Because quite frankly, you can service 32 active listings at once in the same amount of time it takes to handle 8 active buyers. 8 active buyers is pretty brutal, and that often happens to a lot of unfortunate agents in the spring and summer months. And not to mention, buyers like to work at terrible times of the day,
Yeah.
right? They like to work on night. People want to see properties when they're off work, so it's at night or on the weekends, time when you often want to have with your family. So they don't conveniently like to list property during the day. Listing agents, conversely, can just work something close to a 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 job, and they can schedule listing appointments when it's best for them as well too, right? Second biggest reason is leads. Listings create all leads. So leads are generated. I mean, even the idea of an open house, you have to have a listing to hold an open house. Leads come off sign calls, internet leads, postings for the listings. There's a lot of branding that comes off from that, from your marketing material around a listing, your marketing efforts. So listings create leads. So focusing on listings will get you more leads. If you want buyers, the quickest way to get buyers is get a bunch of listings, and the buyers will follow. That's why we always say buyers are like bumblebees. If you want to catch a bumblebee, don't go chasing it down the street, or you look pretty foolish and you won't end up with the bumblebee. They're hard to catch. So don't chase buyers around. If you want buyers, go get yourself some listings, and a lot of buyers will come to you, because listings are like a flower. They attract bumblebees, right? Cost. Even though it does cost a little bit to market a listing, the cost of driving, the cost of your time on the weekends, the cost of writing offers and missing on houses, the cost of time and money when the buyer never ultimately ends up buying, far outweighs that of listings as well too, and branding. I mean, agents that do not represent buyers are what we call, agents that represent buyers are what we call secret agents. No one knows who they are except for the listing agents, and trust me, the listing agents aren't going to tell anyone. However, if I take a listing and you sell it, all the neighbors are going to see that I sold it, and I'm going to be the hero, even though I really did nothing but put the sign in the yard and put it in MLS. You brought the buyer. No one knows who you are. Everybody sees me as really getting homes sold. So the branding that you get from listing, just because it enables you to market the listings and yourself right along with them, is tremendous when we do that. Okay, so scheduling your open house. Contrary to popular opinion, open houses really should go on the schedule that works for you. We have a lot of agents that will hold happy hour open houses between 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock, so inviting the neighbors to come by after people get off work.
Sounds like
they'll
fun.
actually mix those open houses with other brokers to get more people there, because the success of an open house is often determined by the number of cars out front. Remember, our key goal here is to market to the neighbors. So if all of a sudden you have a for sale sign up and you've got 35 cars out in front of that house, that's really composed of other brokers and or neighbors driving by on their way home, and we market it like a neighbor's open house, all of a sudden your listing gets all the traffic and everybody sees it on their way home from work, whereas the other homes in the neighborhood that are up for sale tend to get a little bit jealous of that. They see that you're working harder and they see your success there, right? Traditionally open houses are done on the weekends, on a Saturday and Sunday when everybody's off work, and you'll tend to get better turnout those times too. But Friday afternoons, any weeknight during happy hour can work as well too. The key here is to really market that open house. Remember, it's a game of touches in everything we do. So if you can actually get mailers out or flyers delivered on doorsteps or in doorknobs, mailers out advertising the open house, really focus on the neighbors. This is where most people miss the point. It is very important that we market to the existing neighborhood, because we're going after more listings. So you want to show them how hard you work to sell a home. If we actually hold an open house and market that open house, and then we're able to come back with a sale pending mailer or flyer or email a week later, and then a just sold, it's a lot of contact from you. They actually see your results. They see the results worked, and you're staying first in mind on those neighborhoods. Remember, it's key to pick a target market. And when you pick a target market, it becomes a game of contacts. Your target market is a particular community. So it's the number of times, the number of touches we can put on that same target market. What we don't want to do is shotgun market, which so many agents do because of a lack of preparation and planning. They don't put a system in place. They just hold an open house and they just shotgun it out there and hope to get a lead. They don't have any lead up touches. They don't have any follow up touches. They don't do any type of target marketing over and over on the same people. So they typically play the slot machine, cash out, and leave, where time on task is what gets the real results. Not that I'm promoting gambling. I do not know how slot machines work, right? So it's very important that we actually pick that time, we plan it out, and we try to make a lot of contacts around that we're going to be talking to you about as well too. When we hold the open house, it's very important that we actually see a lot of cars, because kind of like flies to a party, if your car, if they see 3 or 4 cars out in front, more cars will show up. And that's primarily because they feel like they won't have to engage with anyone. The more busy in there, A, it gets people to pay attention, and B, they feel like they can walk through comfortably because any salespeople will be engaged by other people. So you'll see when it rains and pours in open houses, you'll have times where you've got nobody there, and then you have times when you have a lot of people there, and they just keep coming. So the key to that is usually the cars that drive them in the door. So it's not uncommon for realtors never to park in the driveway. We want to park on the street, so we have one car. If we can get some other cars parked out in front, where a spouse parks their car and takes off for the day, or friends park their cars, almost like setting decoy ducks on a pond, we want to start it out and kind of prime the pump with some cars out in front so that we show. If you see another car out in front that from a neighbor, that's great. Park right next to them and make it start looking like there's a lot of traffic out in front of there too. A lot of signage out front helps with that as well too, but we'll get into signage later. Like anything else, marketing in the open house is the key because it enables you an opportunity to make a lot of touches on members of the neighborhood, right? And again, the whole time we're doing it under the adage is that we're showing agents how hard we work to market a particular home and to start meeting and building rapport with a lot of those neighbors as well too. So I strongly recommend for any open houses we have a flyer. On one side of it, we're creating a flyer that markets the home attractively, right? Because again, they're going to vision you doing this with their home. So it's very important you do a good job of making that home look attractive and marketable and putting the neighborhood in its best light. Remember, there's a reason people buy real estate. There's actually 3 of them, and they're location, location, location. So boy, you better know how to sell home in that neighborhood, that area, that school district, the amenities. You need to be able to show location much more than you show the house. So that should show up in your marketing description, because remember, our target market is the neighbors first and foremost. Show that you know how to put their neighborhood in the best light. Then on the reverse side of that, I strongly recommend showing a CMA, or a comparative market analysis, where you can see the other homes that are listed for sale in the area as well too, by yourself or by other agents or by members of your company or by any homes that are out there for sale. If there's a for sale by owner, I'd ask them permission to put that on there as well too. It can't hurt to give them some free marketing as well, so that anyone we come in contact with will have this conversation piece. The flyer starts all conversations. Even if you want to door knock the neighborhood to invite everyone to your open house. In fact, oftentimes we'll call it a neighbors only open house and put neighbors only off on the corner. Now that we know that's not true, everybody's welcome. The public's welcome, other agents are welcome. We want as much traffic as humanly possible to get that energy up and make it rain and then pour with regards to open house traffic that our clients love so much. However, we want to make the neighbors feel very welcome, because those are our true targets, right? We want the looky-loo neighbors. We want opportunities to start conversations with them about their homes. So if you're door knocking the neighborhood and handing out the flyers, maybe if they're not there, you're leaving them in doorknobs or you're leaving them under the mat. We can actually get into a conversation with them, turn the fly over, and just say, hey, by the way, the backside of this market analysis is just for you, and we intend this to be a value to everyone that lives in the neighborhood too. Is this something that you feel benefits you? And whether they say yes, no, whatever, say, well, what we're trying to do here is actually give you a rough idea of what your home would be worth in this current market by giving you the square footage, the size, and the price of each home that's up for sale or has recently sold. You should be able to compare this roughly to your home size and amenities, and get a rough idea of how much your home is worth in this market. Do you see that? Yes, no, maybe. Doesn't really matter. And say, for example, how much is your home worth? Or for example, how large is your home? And then they'll say, great. And say, well, see, you can see based on the square footage and bedroom bath count in your home, we have a few homes that are pretty close to that, and you can see that they went for prices of between $350,000 and $400,000. Does that sound about what you'd expect your home to be worth? And again, we don't want to compare apples to oranges here, so you may have different amenities than these homes worth. In fact, as what we're doing for your neighbor, for your entire neighborhood as a special, is we're offering to all the neighbors a quick, free home price evaluation with no obligation or no pressure. We're just trying to promote our services to the neighborhood, so we'd like to see. We'd like to offer to everyone what is a $500 value, which is the cost of an appraisal. If we just took a quick 5-minute look through your home, we can give you a rough idea of what your home would sell for in this market. Would you have any interest in that? So now we're offering value, adding value, and that script can also be used to everyone that comes through the neighborhood, that comes through the open house. Every time you meet a neighbor, we give them the flyer. On the back of the open house flyer is also the CMA of the neighborhood, and we can try to start that conversation up with them and give them a rough idea of how these CMAs help them get a rough idea what their home is worth, and see if they have any interest in getting that estimate dialed down even closer by letting us take a look at the home. We can actually have those flyers delivered and call the entire neighborhood. It's not uncommon for agents to bring a list of all the phone numbers for the neighborhood. And there are a lot of different online sources where you can get a good chunk of the phone numbers for everybody that lives in any given neighborhood in North America. And that's something that you have to contact our office, and one of our coaches can help you out with those sources. However, there are quite a few different areas to get those numbers. And when we're even at the open house, waiting for people to show up, why be sitting there reading a book? Why not be calling the neighbors and inviting them to the open house? Calling the neighbors beforehand every single day, taking a chunk of 20 phone calls, maybe slide dialing or slide broadcasting a pre-recorded voice message to every single voice message of all the neighbors as well too, to promote your open house. These are all just touches to show how hard you work to get a home sold, and this will quite often be much more than they've ever experienced with an agent that they've used in the past. And they just start to see how hard you work. They start to see your open house signs. They see your open house flyer. They get a phone call from you. They get a voice message from you. They start to see, wow, this guy really works, and it's working for him too. If you're in an area where people still look at the newspaper a lot, you can an open house promotion can go a long way to show that you're an active, busy, successful realtor as well. It also can keep your clients kind of happy to show that you were in there as well. Emailing your entire SOI database is a good idea. Anytime you have an open house, make sure you advertise it to your SOI. That way you kind of evidence that you're a successful agent, showing that you're active, showing that you're working. There are so many agents out there that they know that do it as a part-time job or not at all, or struggle. That's how most agents are perceived as unsuccessful, because such a small percentage of all the agents out there actually succeed, and let alone try to market homes for sale. So you need to be one of those, right? Especially if it's a nice home or a nice listing or a nice high price. You want to make sure that we email it to your entire SOI. It's a reason to show them that you're working, right? It shows them that you are actually succeeding and working and taking listings and marketing homes as well too. Open house signs is important as well. We want to make sure that your open house signs are thorough throughout the interior of the neighborhood. A lot of agents will put open house signs throughout the city hoping to attract drive-by traffic. And to be honest with you, that's just going after bumblebees. People don't buy houses like they're buying a bag of peanuts on the side of the road. So yes, it's good to have them on the entrance and exit, on every entrance and exit of a neighborhood. That way everybody that leaves and comes back home to the neighborhood, the neighbors that is, see that there's an open house that day. And then putting a few different open house signs throughout the neighborhood is important as well, so they see your name over and over again. And that leads me to open house sign content. I like to see your name prominent on the open house sign. So your name, my name is Brian Eisenhower. So I would say Brian Eisenhower across the sign, and then an arrow that says open house. That's really all I care. Anything else can be small. If your brokerage name needs to be on there, put your brokerage name nice and small on there. If you need to have a license number on there, put it on there nice and small. If you want to put a phone number or a website address, I'm not sure why, but if you want to put that on there, put it on there as well. The key is name recognition, so we want your name huge. Everybody gets that it's an open house. You can put open house inside the arrow, but make sure your name is big, because this is a game of touches. You've been hitting them all these different ways. We'd love to see Brian Eisenhower on their drive out, and then when they come back from the grocery store, they see Brian Eisenhower again. We want your name promoted over and over again, so they remember you, not your brokerage name or not the word open house. We want your name recognition.
All right, just want to clarify. We have 30, 40 different open house signs, but I bought all those open house signs. So if you were doing, and you are a listing agent and you start getting a bunch of listings, it's a good idea to invest in some open house signs for yourself. Right now, all the open house signs are generic because nobody wanted to pay for their own signs. So when you are getting a listing, I suggest you buy some open house signs of your own with your name on it, so that people do see recognition. Right now, they're recognizing us as a company, but they're not recognizing Christian as a listing agent. And like, oh, there's his name again. Oh my God, there's his all over the place. Right now, they're only seeing our company open house signs because nobody wants to buy signs. But when you do, that's just an option, just so you know, because you say, hey, how come our signs? That's why, because I bought them all. Nobody was paying for them.
The whole point here is a game of touches, your name on the neighbors over and over again. So we want to see at least 6 to 8 signs throughout the actual neighborhood. I don't really even care what direction the arrows are pointing, gang. The whole point here is then to see your name, okay? So cover every entrance and exit to the neighborhood and then try to litter them throughout the neighborhood. Try to put them in common areas. If you need to put them in a yard, put them in a yard. Just go knock on the door and say, hi, this is Brian Eisenhower, and I've got your neighbor's house open down the street. And we're trying to drive as much traffic to that home as we can so we can get that house sold for a nice high price and keep your property values up higher and higher. So would you mind, on behalf of your neighbors, if I just stuck this sign in the yard with an arrow clearly pointing down the street to their home, and I'll come back here at 3 o'clock today and pick that up from you? Would that be okay? You actually make a contact on a neighbor. They see how hard you're working. They see you're nice and courteous, and they actually will let you put that sign up to get you a lot more touches on the neighborhood as well too. So very important we do that. Again, utilize social media as well. Direct messages to your SOI on Facebook with a marketing digital image, often the same as the front cover of your flyers. Posting that out there so people can see that you are working and that also evidence your success. Okay, so it's a game of touches. So we actually do want to make a lot of these touches. We talked about the script we could use surrounding the flyer, whether it's before the event, over the phone, or actually at the open house, where we can actually start explaining to them, especially neighbors that have listings, how we can actually come from contribution and move from initial contact to an appointment by actually telling them that if we look through their home, that we would be able to give them a rough idea of what their home would be worth in this market. And that all starts with a flyer that can be turned into an image that can be talked about over the phone, in person, door knocking, or at the open house itself, so we can meet every neighbor and turn them into a listing appointment by walking through our home and giving them a price opinion. We start going to work for them. In addition, everybody that we meet, we also want to make sure they understand why we're doing this, right? Why we're holding the open house. And the script in your materials, it talks about the script for promoting your open house and evidencing your marketing efforts. And the script generally reads, hi, I'm John Smith with ABC Realty. We have your neighbor's home at 123 Main Street up for sale, and we're holding a special open house on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. Since we know that the ultimate purchaser of a home is often a friend, family member, or acquaintance of someone that already lives in the same neighborhood, we are inviting the entire neighborhood to come by and take a look. Okay, so that's our key script there, right there. Since we know that the ultimate purchaser of a home is a friend, family member, or acquaintance of someone that already lives in the neighborhood. And that's the key. That needs to roll off your tongue. We need to be saying that over and over again to explain why we're marketing to the neighborhoods. Because people say, well, I'm not looking to buy, and we get that, but you often know someone that does. Plus, it gives you a chance to handpick your own neighbor. And you might bump into someone that does. So we ultimately find this, so that's why we're marketing to them. We need to say that in the listing presentation too, because oftentimes you have competitive listing presentation where other agents are sitting down in front of your clients and trying to get the listing. So what you need to do is make sure you say, hey, we're going to market very heavily on your home. We are going to market very hard to your existing neighborhood, because we ultimately find the purchaser of a home as a friend, family member, or acquaintance is somebody that already lives in the neighborhood. So we're going to market very hard to this neighborhood as well too. We're going to call your entire neighborhood. We're going to hold a special open house for all your neighbors. We're going to actually hand door knock every neighbor in the town, and we're going to actually hand deliver it. You start showing that kind of activity and show how hard you work to sell homes, you'll get more listings. Not only will you get more listings, you'll impress the neighbors as well too, because it's like a display of your marketing efforts. Open houses are the great stage for the business generators. A lot of agents, the vast majority of them, just look at open houses as a nuisance. They sit back and they just hold them, and they hope people show up. They don't do any type of activities. And quite frankly, lazy agents get lazy agent results. Agents that actually show that they market hard for their homes and they target that market to the neighborhoods not only generates more buyer leads and more seller leads, it generates more business and respect from the business community as well too. So it actually is very effective for marketing. We've actually contained quite a few scripts for you in your materials of how to actually use this script to move into both buyer consultation appointments and listing presentation appointments with individuals that you bump into, whether it be neighbors or buyers that come into your house. It's also a fabulous time to invite vendors. Again, more cars in front matters. They can also help you with clients. You can actually use them as a reason to actually get potential buyers pre-qualified on the spot too, to keep them in place, to keep more cars out in front. Because if you have one buyer being pre-qualified and a lender there, that's 2 more cars out in front, and it gives them something of value because they get pre-qualified with a particular lender. That increases the likelihood that they're going to use you because they know this lender pre-qualified for them, so why go meet a second lender? Very frequently, when you start doing work for them like that, they appreciate it. Then we move into some scripts in your materials about how to schedule an open house, right? Scheduling an open house ideally should be done at the very, very beginning, at the listing presentation. I'd like to see agents that we work with schedule at least 2 open houses at the listing presentation, because you're still actually recruiting these clients to be your client. So what you want to let them know is, hey, we really want to get on the ball fast on this. I'd like to actually schedule an open house the following weekend and then the weekend after that, because I really want to make sure that we take advantage of the magic month in real estate. And that's when most people will look at your home when we first put it on the market. We want to have an open house the first week and the second week, because that's when the most agents are going to look at the property, when the public's going to look at the property, and that's when people will want to go see it for the first time. We'll get the most exposure at that time, and that's when it's important to get all of the neighbors out there looking too, so they actually bring either themselves or their friends and family members to look at it as well. It creates kind of a buyer's feeding frenzy if we do that. So what we're trying to do is schedule 2 open houses right away, and the goal is to get it sold right away, no matter the market. Because we sell it right away, we have the highest likelihood of getting a price close to asking, and the highest likelihood of getting multiple offers at the same time. Because if we get multiple offers at the same time, often we can negotiate with one or both of them up to a higher price, maybe even above asking, with the most ideal terms by way of down payment amounts, deposits, closing time frame, etc., etc. Through that process. But in order to do that, we have to generate the most excitement and energy around the sale of the home right off the bat. So that's why it's so crucial to have open houses right at the beginning. And if we do get the home sold, our services don't stop there, right? Because let's say we do get the offer, we get an offer on the property. It usually takes a while to go back and forth with one or multiple offers until we actually negotiate agreeable terms where it actually goes officially under contract. During that time, it's always wonderful to have an open house, right? Because on the weekends, that's when people that have made the offer, that are in negotiations with us, will typically bring their friends or family members by to see their home that they're under negotiations with. And there's nothing worse than when they drive by your house to see 20 cars out in front of it of people looking through and trying to buy their home.
That's interesting.
That really helps with our negotiation position. And you'll see a lot of buyers come up and just take your offer, or be a lot more amenable, at least in the negotiations, when they see that you're still marketing after you've received offers.
I like that one.
It actually gives you a great opportunity too to continue to market the property and make more touches on the neighborhood. Even if it sells, you'll see a lot of agents continue a pre-scheduled open house after it goes under contract, because we still have negotiations typically coming up about inspections and repairs. And inspections and repairs, people will actually negotiate to have things fixed, done, removed, or paid. And if they see an open house, they see all this interest in the home, they're going to be less likely to be very demanding, because they don't want to lose the home to all those potential backup offers you might have received, because they saw the type of interest you had at the open house. So if you're in your initial listing presentation, you're promising that you're going to work this hard and you're going to continue to work for backup offers. These are words that they typically haven't ever heard from a potential real estate agent that they were considering using. Someone that's going to work past when they get an offer and even start to generate backup offers and increased interest to really get a strong negotiation position, and even potentially backup offers as well too. Okay, now moving on to your open house guest list registration. It's very important for you to have a guest list or registration in the most highly trafficked part of the home. It is nice to have it by the front door, but if that's not a high traffic, comfortable area where people like to congregate, please have it in the kitchen or in a very communal area, because it's very important that you stay near that and ask every single person to please sign it. We want their name, address, phone number, and email address, right? Because we are trying to grow our SOI referral database here too. So the more contact information we can get, the better. A few scripts for you are contained in your in your materials under the open house guest list and registration scripts. And it's very important that we insist on this, right? And you'll see script number 1 says, please sign in for security purposes. I need to keep a record of everyone that comes through the house, right? And then we're going to actually kind of hold the flyer for the property out that we're going to give it to them once they fill in. Once they fill it in, then we give them the flyer too. So please sign in for security purpose. I need to keep a record of everyone that comes through the house. And then open script house script number 2, which you could use, is please sign in for insurance purposes. I have to keep a log of every guest that walks through the home. And again, this is true as well too. And you're going to see the reason that these both have validity you may not know, but there's reason. For security, one of the common ways that people break into a house is they go through an open house and they leave a bathroom door unlocked, or excuse me, a bathroom window unlocked. You know, one of the high windows up in the air that you can't see and a lot of agents don't check? They'll leave it unlocked and then they'll come back later and break into the home through that unlocked window. So very important we keep a record of everyone that comes and goes, plus people that go in the house. They could actually take something while they're looking through the home, and we need to have a list of all that for the police to show we did a good job. For insurance purposes, oftentimes a broker's errors and omissions insurance carrier will ask that guest list be kept at every open house as well too, for them to get coverage, so that in case we are liable for something damaged, stolen, or an injury that occurs on the property, our insurance mandates that we actually keep a record of everybody that enters and leaves the property. So we're not lying by these two things at all. It's a very good idea for both security and insurance purposes that we keep a log of everyone that enters and leaves the home. So the most reasonable people will get that one. So yes, you're going to get some people to put some fake information down. That happens, but don't let that discourage you. This is a numbers game. Like everything in marketing, yes, people will leave fake information. Yes, some phone numbers won't work. Yes, some addresses will be wrong. Yes, some people are going to get mad that you left a flyer on their doorstep. This is a numbers game. So if we definitely want to play the numbers, and you'll see that the vast majority of the time it does work. So we need to do it despite the 1 or 2 instances where it does not work as well too. So during the open house, in your materials, move forward to the section on during the open house. Always stay active, right? I strongly recommend, like I said, getting a bunch of phone numbers of the neighbors so that we're calling if there's no activity there. This is a weekend or it's a time in the latter evening. Oftentimes when we have an open house, we really want to stay active, show that you're marketing. So let's be calling the neighbors. You can also go outside and you can actually kind of keep an eye on the door and knock the doors of the 5 to 10 neighbors across the street and go each way 5 or 10 houses down, so long as we can keep an eye on the house that way, to door knock and use our script with the flyer and try to invite them by, because we ultimately find the purchaser of a property as a friend, family member, or acquaintance of somebody that already lives in the neighborhood. So we'd love to have you come down and take a look at it, so that if you bump into someone looking to buy or sell, you can kind of steer them our way. And it'll show how hard you're working to get their neighbor's home sold. You're not asking anything of them. You're evidencing how hard you're working to get traffic through that house as well too, right? You can also bring your sphere of influence contact list, so you could actually make SOI telephone contacts while you're in there as well too. After all, you are kind of trapped. And if you don't have any more numbers in the neighborhood to call your SOI and make some contacts there. You have 40 contacts to make a year, and the telephone part's on you. So actually using that time to be productive and make those phone calls is much more effective than reading a book. Okay? So when people walk in, we've provided you some initial exploratory open house questions where we want to engage in questions with them, and then to start getting them answering and talking and to build a small degree of rapport with them, right? Then we give you a nice follow-up script for potential buyers where we inform them that trying to find a house looking at open houses is very difficult. Only a small percentage of homes are open at any given time. So what you're just looking at is barely the tip of the iceberg, right? Then we can actually suggest that we set them up on a search, right? Where we actually can set them up on an automated email search for all the homes that fit the price range, location, size, amenities that they're looking for, so they can see all the homes and get full realtor access to the entire MLS, since only a few houses are ever held open. And that way they can do it from the privacy of their own home with no obligation, stress, and total confidentiality on their part as well too. So we can either set a buyer consultation to do that. We can actually have a computer there to set them up and search when we're there, or get their contact information to follow up with them and set a search with them, set a search for them up over the phone as well too. We've got some great follow-up scripts and dialogues for the neighbors and sellers that I kind of alluded to earlier, where we actually show them the flyer, turn over the CMA on the back, and
All
talk about
available
how
right there.
we're trying to give them a rough idea of what their home's worth and offer them the opportunity to give them a price opinion. We've actually included in your materials an example of what that flyer might look like, where you advertise your knowledge of the neighborhood and provide a market update at the end of your module. You can see a sample market update flyer that we attach to the back of an open house flyer, right? So at the end of this, we've got some action steps for you, and we got quite a few of them too, right? Time to start planning your own open house, right? And I would recommend trying to pick one that gives you enough time to plan it. See if you can get phone numbers or names of addresses of the neighborhood. See if you can create a property flyer like we talked about, and at the very least have it delivered on doorsteps or door knock the neighborhood beforehand to really use as an opportunity to make contact with a lot of potential SOI members. And we want to market and promote it, right? We want to email it to your own SOI as well. We want to get a target market together of who we want to get these flyers delivered to. And if we're going to make phone calls, how many we need to make a day leading up to the event as well too. And then we want to practice these scripts. Practice the scripts in these models till you get good at them as well too. Follow this method for your first open house. Give yourself plenty of time to hold it, and then start having more and more open houses. And you watch how fast your SOI grows and how fast your listing and buyer leaderboards grow with existing clients that'll earn you commission dollars right now. Thanks again. I hope you enjoyed this module.
I think was great. Here's our workbook we have in here. And I have a really nice presentation on open houses as well, but that's everything we talked about. Prospecting activities that we can do. Circle prospecting, tell me about your plans to move. You're talking to people. Expireds for sale by owner, you can go and approach them. What do you think of the house? Feedback. We have a, we have a whole loose leaf over by Fred that you pull out some. You had a sign-in sheet when you did the open house?
Yes.
With Vicky? Right.
Yes.
Well, we have those sheets and actually ask for feedback as well, because that feedback's important when somebody comes in, so that you can just say to your seller, if the house doesn't sell for whatever reason, it's like, you know what, I love your house, but look at everybody's comments that came in here, look what they have to say about your home.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
When I went to do that showing the other night, there was a puddle in the basement. And so you know how they ask you for the feedback? I actually commented that the puddle was in the basement because I didn't want anybody to get hurt. Was that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
'Cause I
Maybe they didn't
remember
even
Vicky-
know either.
Right,
You know?
apparently, because I'm sure they would have cleaned it up. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember Vicky telling me they want you, they really do want your
We
feedback.
always want the real feedback. Don't
They
ever
want
get
the-
insulted. First of all, it's not your house,
Right.
not your house.
Yeah.
So don't ever get insulted like, oh, look what she said about that. I'd rather have somebody be blunt and say it's too expensive. You know, I mean, if my buyer says they don't like the house and they just said, keep moving, it's just not the one for me, I'm not going to trash the house. But if it did smell, I notice, you know, I'm going to just say, you know, there's a lot of agents that take everything personally.
So you have first one.
There's a lot of people that absolutely should not be in this business. They take everything personally. If you're selling nothing but your own homes, you own 100 homes and you're listing and selling your own homes, take it personally. This isn't my house. I don't take it personally, you know? I mean, if I put in the listing, we can't get rid of the odor. The house is being sold as is, and somebody comes, oh, smelly odor in the house. Well, no kidding. That's something that you'd say, well, I already warned you about that. But other than that, I mean, if it smells like, 900 cats, I'm going to be very polite about it, but I'm going to mention that, the odor was overwhelming. The cat odor was overwhelming, or, the dogs tore the place up.
Right.
Or, the windows, it's too much work for my client. And be honest, but kind, but honest. Kind always works in
Mhm.
every situation. You will find people will deal with you if you're kind, even if you're telling the truth in a kind way rather than blunt. Blunt, you alienate people. And something else I'd like to keep in mind when it comes to things like that, the buyers and sellers come and go. You're going to run into the same realtors all the time. So it's so much easier to build rapport with other agents when you go to show a house. You see the way I talk to people? I talk to everybody like I know them. I don't care who it is, because you just don't know. The next deal, somebody says, you know what? I had a really good rapport with Joe last time. He's probably easy to work with. If I'm going to pick between two equal buyers, they want to work with somebody that they want to work with. I mentioned that Pat has a situation where the seller's listing agent won't give information about the property. And they started this whole confrontation. Well, at this point, that agent, neither one of them want to work with each other. Let's put it this way. They both got personal. They both had a bad attitude, and neither one of them. So basically, I had to step in and just iron it out. And I got the information we needed yesterday at 5 p.m. Actually, got all the information we needed. And the agent is kind of like cowering right now, the listing agent, and said, I hope, hope we can work together. Because now I have to see if our buyer wants to put the offer in. But she's also very leery now because she knows she also crossed the line. It's really bad. You're going to run into the same agents over and over and over. And I've had a good experience with people where they said, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I like to work with you. So, we've had it where we were less. The deal that Donna got, the two nurses that have the accepted offer, and they should be closing any minute also. Another one waiting for municipals. The agent, I've done several deals with her. And she said, I like working with you and I'm looking forward to doing this deal again with you.
Great.
And we were not the high offer. The sellers wanted a nice young couple because they were in that house for 60 or 70 years in the same house. And their children wanted who inherited the house. They wanted a young couple in there, but we were not the highest offer. And she actually talked the sellers into, you work with Joe and it's going to be a smooth transaction. It's not even my deal, but basically I had to step in a lot because of that. And then once we got it done now, it's Donna or Pat's. I don't have to deal with it anymore, but I'm happy to do that with anybody if it makes the deal go smoothly. You do have to be able to work with people and makes it much easier. Open house timeline, just different things to do. Marketing, following up. This is all great stuff in here, Here's your preparation checklist, action steps. I'm interested in seeing this weekend, Vicky and Katrina's, because they're planning on having mimosas.
Yeah.
Right? They're planning something, and it's something that I didn't even think about, and I've done. I can't even tell you how many open houses I've conducted in 23 something years, but I never thought of a what did we call it? He called it I wrote it down. Happy hour open house.
Oh, yeah.
The
That's
time
what
people
my
coming
husband-
home from work. I never even thought of that. Like you just assume. I've always done open houses sometimes during the week, like during the day, but I never thought at the time people come home from work, which is between 5:30 and 7 o'clock, to do an open house at that time on their way home, stop in for a beverage and, and come check out the house because everybody's driving by. Right. Exactly. That was something I loved that I've
evening and a Saturday.
all different hours. Right. I mean, again, chances are we're not even going to get a chance to do anything with this because it'll probably be sold. But I love when I'm doing something and I learn something new myself. I love picking up one thing, and that was one thing that I picked up as well, which I'm really happy about. So also, we all know this. Well, we do know this. I know this, and maybe some of you don't. But focusing on the neighbors. That's what it's all about. Is focusing on the neighbors, because the statistics really are very slim. We've had some really good luck over the years that people have walked in and purchased our homes from an open house. We've got really good luck with that. But that's not really the goal. The goal is to use this as a marketing tool to show yourself off to the neighborhood.
With showing the other day, not just that one house, but there were like 3 other houses on the same street for sale.
Right.
So just think, if you do an open house and you market yourself, you're liable to pick up those in the same area.
Those
Just
other
like you
lists,
said.
right, exactly.
And you have the same.
And this is the time of year where people are jumping on and deciding whether they want to put their house on the market.
Isn't something about door knocking? If
Mhm.
you want to make door knocking in the same neighborhood.
Now,
you
there's a
need to go to the
difference.
municipality.
There's a difference between door knocking and going, hey, I want to introduce myself as, Christian from Joe Baratta Realty. That needs a permit,
Okay.
but that's not what's going on here. This is an invitation.
Okay.
I'm actually inviting you to an open house. Here's my open house flyer, and we're going to be there. We're going to have cocktails and whatever. And please stop by, help support your neighbor trying to sell her house. My name is Christian. Very nice to meet you. Hope to see you at our open house on Saturday at 1 p.m.
Okay.
Come on in and have a mimosa.
Or would you just be able to maybe?
You don't need a permit to do that, for an invitation?
Invitation
not-
to an open house. We're not soliciting. If you were knocking on a door and handing somebody a flyer, that's a solicitation. But here, we're not doing that. We're actually inviting you to an open house. That's not a solicitation. Right? I'm not selling you my goods. I'm inviting you, your neighbor, down the street. Now, you're not going to go 5 miles away. Your neighbor around the corner, right there, number 15, you're 15 on this side of the block. Your neighbor asked me to drop these off in the neighborhood and hand them out. Now, sticking it in the door, that's not good.
Okay,
Door knockers are not acceptable, and certainly never, never, never put anything in a mailbox unless it's got a stamp on it. We'll never put anything in a mailbox.
interesting.
Post office will fine you. The mailman opens up the mailbox and something is in there that you didn't give them to put in there. The fines are $500-600 per occurrence. A lot of mailboxes, you could put them in. Don't ever do that. Yeah. You can go to the post office and ask them how much would it be to drop off my flyer to 100 homes. They'll give you a fee, you get a receipt, and they'll take it, and the mailman will have them in his little truck, and every time he grabs somebody's thing, he puts your flyer in there, totally legal. But you can't put it yourself unless the mailman, unless he put it in there, it's got to have a stamp on it.
As well, because I think when I get those, those postcards with like the solds in your area and stuff like that, I think that they put them in like, not the mailman.
No, most of the time, the mailman is actually, if you've seen your mailman,
Yes.
he's got all the people's mail lined up in his truck, and then he's got this stack of other things that he puts in there. Sometimes they're advertisements, because if it's not, there are fines, unless they're paying them off. That's, this is Westchester, people pay people off.
Yeah.
No question. All right, lunch and learn, it's 12:56. Sorry, I kept you guys a little longer. Those of you at lunch, I will, today's Thursday, so next lunch and learn is on Tuesday, but I am coming back tomorrow. I'm going to stop recording now. We have a